Welcome everyone to the Sarra show. Today I have an amazing guest with me, my friend Omar here in Casablanca. Hi Omar.
Hi, Sarah. Good
How
to
are
be
you?
here. I'm good. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for being here.
It's such an honor to be with you and do this with you and share this space with you. So I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, me as well, me as well. So we met a few years ago through Ankush Jain, actually, right? Through the three principles,
Yeah,
right? You used to live in London. You moved back to Casablanca now.
yeah,
And you coach using the three principles understanding,
that's right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Okay, so my journey starts when I was 15 years old, 15, 16 years old. And it started with a documentary called The Secret. And what got me here actually is my English teacher. And he was a really nice guy. And back then I wasn't really that good in English. I wasn't even speaking like one good phrase. And so he got me interested in what he's doing, his lessons and everything he showed us in the class. And one day he put this documentary called The Secret about law of attraction, etc. And so what I did, I went back home and I watched that documentary, but in French, because I didn't understand, the documentary in English. And when I started watching that documentary, I was really fascinated by how, our mind works and, using our mind to manifest things and law of attraction. And so that changed me, and my friends start noticing the change in me,
And you were
etc.
15.
I was 15 years old, yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, at that stage, I was not reading I wasn't like into reading books, etc. And I do remember my dad used to always tell me like, come on, I wish to see you grabbing a book and reading a book or something. But he did not tell me read a book about tennis. I'm passionate about tennis, or read a book about, something that I'm really interested in. And so when I came across this, this law of attraction thing, I started reading articles. And then I started reading about positive psychology, and then I started reading about NLP, Tony Robbins books, etc. And that got me really into the self-development world. So this is what got me started. This was the beginning of my journey into, discovering who I truly am and just exploring, that there is something beyond that we could see with our naked eyes. And so, when I had my baccalaureate degree, I applied to study in London, and this is where the real journey began, because I started meeting these people. I was reading their book, like Tony Robbins, T. Harv Eker. I used to go to their seminars, and I just loved how they were doing their thing, like being on stage and impacting people and coaching people, and so I was really fascinated by that. And around that time, I was, I was studying something completely different than what I studied later. I studied, a foundation degree in business. And then I changed to a psychology degree. And so when I changed to a psychology degree, I was still going to those seminars, etc. And then I met a friend of mine, Mamoun Youssef, who is into this the three principles of understanding. And back then I didn't know what Mamoun was doing exactly, because we met through other friends and they knew I was into coaching and he was into coaching as well. And so what he did, he didn't tell me anything about what he's doing, but he invited me to a seminar of his where his mentor gonna be teaching, doing a 3 days intensive. And that was Dr. Keith Blevins. The first day of meeting Keith and listening to him, I, bombarded him with questions, because I was really sure that I know what this guy is talking about. He was talking about thought. Yes, of course I know thought. He was talking about consciousness. Yeah, I've heard of it, he was talking about mind, and everything he was talking about, I thought that I knew. I was arrogant, kind of, in my head. I didn't really give it a chance and just listened, from an empty place. And so, the first day, I really annoyed Keith, and
And this was at the seminar, right?
yeah, it was at the 3 days intensive. And the first day I bombarded Keith with questions, but the second day I was actually thinking if I should come back or not, because I found Keith, really slow and trying to find his words. He's speaking, I just felt bored. Because I used to go to these seminars where, people are talking fluently and they know like what they're saying and, nonstop. But he was like trying to find his words. But I didn't know back then that he was trying to explain the inexplainable. He was talking about something that cannot be kind of, talked about with words. Like he was pointing at a place that cannot be described with words. So he was like using metaphors, etc. But I didn't know that. But I'm glad that I came back the second day because, first of all, my friend gave me, a free ticket. And it would be a shame to not come back the second day. And second of all, I was, still curious about, what's this guy is talking about. And so the second day is when actually it really hit me. At some point, I just fell into this meditative state where, I just felt happy. I felt peaceful. I felt really present. I felt joyful. And I didn't know what the heck happened to me because for me to be in that state, I used to meditate and try to sit down and, focus and meditate. And I used to have like a vision board in my room in London. And I used to have like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then take the days I meditated in. And if I don't meditate one day, I repeat again. And so it was a different experience. And it really got me more curious, because I knew that there is something in here that I should, understand, or I should, this path is something that I should explore more for myself.
How did you get into this meditative state when you were at this extensive seminar? So you go there day one and you kind of, probably coming at it from a place of, I already know this. So
Yeah.
you're not open to listening to more, right? And then the second day you go back, something inside of you tells you go back, and you do go back.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you just fall into this place? Or did he say something specific that got you there? Like what happened there?
After a while, after getting into this understanding and really like seeing how it works, it has to do with something he said that I've heard, within me beyond my thinking. I wasn't even judging what he was saying, so I kind of like put my head into sleep mode, my thinking into sleep mode, and I just I don't know the words exactly. I don't remember the words, but something that I felt that was really interesting back then because I've never had this experience before. Because to me, to get access to that meditative state, I have to sit down and force myself to to get present and and focus on my breath, focus on if I have any tension on my body. But Keith wasn't saying anything about that. He was just talking about how our thinking passes by if we don't engage with it, and that thought is not something to take seriously, and there is a pure kind of thought, and so this is what they call an insight. I had an insight in that moment where I really stopped listening to Keith from a filtered mind, and I just I was just taking it in without judging what he was saying. And it was an interesting experience because after that seminar, I was, I was I was in that state of presence and joy for a week or more. And then when I got back to my thinking in my head, and I texted Mamoon, and it was like, Mamoon, what happened? I was feeling good and butterfly, etc., and it's gone. And he said, don't worry about it. It's just your thinking. Don't don't try to get it back. And yeah, I mean, of course, I was trying to get it back because I didn't understand back then what he was trying to convey to me. But it was an interesting experience, and it was something that really helped me to see that there is literally nothing broken inside of me, and there is nothing to fix. Because I always thought that I'm missing something, And I was looking for it in like the books I was reading, the self-development books.
Intellectually, you're looking for it with more thinking, right? You're
Yeah,
just using more thinking to find what's missing.
exactly. And like if you don't feel good, like it means that your vibration is down, and you should like listen to this vibration sounds, and there is always more to do to get into that state. And so I really stopped like
So what are you wait?
reading
What are you saying? So
those
when you
books.
said, when you're talking about, if you don't feel good, then try this, try to do something.
Yeah,
Right, is what you're saying. But the truth is, you don't need to do anything. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, as if feeling bad is bad, but it's not. And here, like this was a huge insight for me, because when I felt bad, like when I used to read these books and I feel bad, and I say to myself, well, there is something else. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe I'm not applying this law of attraction thing right. Maybe there is another book or another thing that I should know. So it's always more stuff to think about. Whereas the three principles is more about not engaging with this thought, because you already have everything you need inside of you. So I've really realized that there is nothing to fix. Like there is, you cannot fix something that doesn't need fixing in the first place.
It's not broken.
It's not broken in the first place, and that's who we truly are at our core.
How does that apply? How does that apply in a world where everybody's trying to fix what's wrong with them? In relationship to their thinking, in relationship to how they feel, in relationship to not feeling well or good, or being triggered by certain things. How can you tell someone when they're in a place where they're not feeling good at all, oh, there's nothing for you to do, there's nothing to fix?
What I usually do when someone comes up to me with a problem is I try to really understand where I'm coming from. And I know that they are innocently caught up in their thinking, in their what they call what we call triggers. My boss triggered me. I feel bad because of my boss, or I feel bad because of my partner, or I feel bad because I'm stuck and I don't know what to do next. And the thing is that, I try to really, loosen their thinking up, to really slow them down in their thinking, to really start seeing. So if I throw any card and I talk about something, like something spiritual or something that cannot be grasped with our intellect, they will hear it beyond their intellect. Because if their mind is racing and I go and we talk more about their problems, it's not of help. So my job is to really create a space where they could hear something beyond the noise in their head, and so they could come up with any problem, literally. And the more present you are, the more likely they are to hear something new for themselves, and have what we call an insight. So basically, you don't tell them what to do, you don't suggest to them another kind of thinking, to another stuff to think about, but you'd rather just create a space where they hear something that will really transform them, not for a short period of time, but for a lifetime, as long as you are having this human experience.
Can you give me an example of, a situation where someone came with a problem, and you're able to slow them down, or you were able to show them something different, or help them have an insight?
Yeah. So I have many examples, but the one that I could think of, and actually it happened on just after I got across this understanding, and this is a story that a lot of people are familiar with who listen to my, like my podcast or the show. And it's about this, lady that I met in Holland Park in London. And she was heading there, and I was kind of lost, and I asked her, and she told me I'm going there. And then we walked together, and then we started chatting, like a casual conversation. And after that, she asked me, what do you do? And I told her I'm studying psychology at the moment, and I'm into coaching. And I start sharing her a little bit about like what I came across. And at some point, she just opened up to me, and she started telling me about all this horrible experiences that happened to her in the past, like being sexually abused and being raped and being sexually abused again. And it was a mess. It was a mess for her, and I really felt for her, and I really wanted to help her. And so we were walking in the park, and she was like sharing about these horrible experiences. And then I was like just sharing with her what I've seen back then, like my insights into this understanding that thought is it's always passing by. It's like a cloud in the sky, and we are not the cloud in the sky. We are kind of the sky. We cannot be damaged by the rain or the sun, and that thought is temporary. And there is always another fresh new thought that comes when we let go of the thought that is bothering us. Anyway, she heard something, and then we bought coffee, and then we sat down, and she told me she was sharing more about these experiences and that, and I asked her something, and I told her, like, have you ever thought about forgiving this guy who raped you? And it stopped her on her tracks. And according to her, because I did the podcast with her, and she told me, like, I didn't take you seriously at the beginning until you asked me this question. And so she went on, and she said no, and we just continued the conversation. At some point, we just stayed in a quiet space, like just enjoying the beauty of this park. I love Holland Park, and I love there is a part of this park, Kyoto, and with the waterfalls and a peacock, going around. So we just started enjoying the beauty of that park, and after that, we exchanged numbers, and she went back home, I went back to my place, and then after a week, I received a text from her, and she was like, "Oh, I have to tell you this. I feel so happy. I haven't felt this way since a long time. My heart is so open. I want to go back to Italy and spend Easter with my family. I want to go to my church and speak with my priest and tell him what happened to me. Thank you very much. You're a good coach, and you should be doing this in parks, etc." And I was shocked by this. I was like, what the heck happened here? Like, it was crazy to hear that, right? And so I was like trying to think of what did I say to her that got her to see this, Back then I didn't know that it's not about what I said, because, I thought that if I know what I said to her, maybe I could say it to another person and they will get the same thing, But it doesn't work this way. After a while, I really saw that it's not about what I said, but she was ready to hear something new, And, the place where I was coming from. And it happened that she had this insight that, that still the ripple effects of that insight still, expanding and expanding. We are still in touch. And she, and back then, by the way, she was bipolar when I met her. Now she's not bipolar anymore. She was under medication, and she was going to a psychiatrist. And now she's not going to a psychiatrist. She's just living her life. She's just enjoying her life right now. And she became closer to, to God. She wasn't that religious, according to what she told me. But now she's closer to God, and she's more spiritual. And she doesn't fall, into her, bad thinking pattern or negative thinking pattern that brought her down to kind of, suffer and have this as what we call a mental illness.
So you're saying, you're trying to figure out what happened exactly between you and this lady that actually got her out of this place where she was mentally, including being bipolar, and going through all these horrible experiences such as rape, and then something else opened up for her, and you still don't know exactly what you said or what happened, or are you saying it was more like the space that was created that allowed for her mind to slow down and see something new?
Yeah.
Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, the thing is that you don't know exactly what happened to you to have this insight. Like sometimes you could recall what you've heard, and sometimes you do not recall. But it's always about the feeling, because you get into a feeling, and that feeling guides you, and it's a pure feeling. It's not like a peaceful feeling or joyful experience that you have. That it is about something that happened to you. Maybe you bought this, or someone gave you flower, or someone gave you a present, and then you feel it's not that kind of experience. This is like really the real meaning of coming back home
To
you know
yourself.
to yourself, to see who you truly are, beyond your ideas about yourself, beyond um your self image,
Mm-hmm.
beyond what you think about yourself. You see yourself as you are, a spiritual being in a body,
Mm.
and a spiritual being in body having a human experience, which ebbs and flows. That's why sometimes we have some negative thinking, but it doesn't mean that we should go and trying to fix that thinking, because it's passing by. It's passing by. And so we have always a second chance every second.
How about the thinking that doesn't pass by? There are a lot of people who get stuck in a negative thinking cycle, right? Something bad happens, and then they get stuck in that place, and it doesn't feel like it's passing. It's hard to tell those people that just let it pass when it hasn't passed in a month or two, and some people call it a fog. I'm in a fog. How do you tell someone just let it pass when it hasn't passed?
Well, I wouldn't tell someone to let it pass, but I would rather meet them where they are. You cannot tell someone who just lost someone dear to them that it's just your thinking.
Right.
You gotta understand where they are coming from, and you gotta also just be gentle with them in a way that it's gonna make them calm down, and just be in that space of peace. Like it's always about getting into that space where they are not engaged with their thinking, because if they are engaged with their thinking and you tell them something, they are not going to hear it. It's gonna be still in that state of suffering. Like if I have grief thinking, I'll feel bad.
Right.
And so I'll just be with them until we get into the present, and you kind of feel that, and then you ask them, for example, if someone lost a dear person, and you could tell them like where. And I know you grieve. I know you're in a bad place right now, but where does this feeling come from? And they might tell you, it's coming from, I lost this, my dad or my mom, or, my husband or my wife. And, and I usually, like, I would ask this person, like, if we bring this person back to life, would you feel better? And they will usually say yes, but it's not possible
To bring them back.
And so like what I usually ask people in this situation is like where do you think your feelings are coming from right now? Is it coming from the person that you lost, or is it coming from your thinking about the person that you lost? Either they're gonna hear it or not. And if they don't hear what I just asked them, I'll just keep asking more questions until they see that this experience of life is a thought-generated experience. that nothing outside could make us feel anything. It's always our thinking that creates our experience. And so I'm not saying that, it's good to lose someone, but I'm saying that, your experience of that loss is coming from your thinking. And that means that your thinking, once it changes, you're gonna get back home. You're gonna get present. You're gonna, move on and live your life. Right? And of course, you're gonna think about this person again and you're gonna feel sad. That's the human experience. But again, our thinking passes by and we get back to, to oneness, to truth,
Mm-hmm.
to who we truly are.
These are, the concept that you're talking about, right? How easy is it for you to actually explain that to people? Because as you were talking about Keith earlier, right, and the way he was talking very slow and everything. He probably understands how hard it is for someone to grasp this concept, right? A lot of people battle with, what do you mean it's all in my head? Or what do you mean it's all my thinking? This is actually really happening and this is bad, right? We'll get in this place of defending the way we feeling, our victimhood. We get attached or we get committed to feeling the way we feel. How hard is it for you to communicate what you're communicating right now?
I know that we are thinking creatures, and most of the time, in our day-to-day experience, we go about, and engage with our thinking. Whatever occurs to us, we engage with that. But what's really helpful about this understanding is once we get that it is an inside-out experience, meaning feelings come from thoughts, moment to moment, rather than feeling comes from something other than thoughts, experience, a person, whatever is in the outside. Mm-hmm. Once we truly see that it's an inside-out experience, we're gonna suffer less, right? I mean, if something happened to me and I feel bad about it, I'll give you an example. So, in around October, I lost I had 3 cats back then, and one of my cat died, and I really felt horrible because they got poisoned, and I really felt bad.
That's terrible.
The 3 of them.
The 3 of them
Yeah,
died?
and just one.
Oh.
But I really felt bad, like because I was thinking like who gonna poison animals, like who could do that? I really got sick, and I was like thinking, how could anyone do this to an animal? So I lost one, and the other 2, they were like kind of dizzy, and so I had to rush them to the
emergency,
to the emergency, to the
vet,
the veterinary. And yeah, the 2 of the other cats got saved, but still I couldn't fathom the fact that someone could harm them. And so I was really, just in my head about it, and really suffering that, to the point that I was like, really got sick. I started having like, kind of, panic attack, and couldn't like breathe properly. And then I do remember, I love listening to Sydney Banks. Sydney Banks is the guy who uncovered, the 3 principles of understanding. And I do remember listening to him. And he said that I've heard this many times, but I've heard it deeper this time. Thought is like a paintbrush. Wherever you paint, you experience. And it just hit me in that moment that I was painting, this experience of suffering about my cats, about, this person that did this, that give them poison. And all of a sudden I just dropped all of it and I came back to the present moment. It's like it didn't matter what I felt, 5 minutes ago. It got me back, and I just remembered that that thinking I suffered, it's gone. It's a done deal. Once a thought has been you've thought about it, it took a form, and you feel it, it's a done deal. There is no need to go back to that thought.
So what I'm hearing, okay, so your cat got poisoned, right? And unfortunately passed away, and I'm sorry, I know how hard it is to lose a pet. And then it's normal, it's normal to be sad, right? You lost your cat. Sadness is a natural emotion that we all feel. But then the thinking that got you into suffering, which is different, right? The sadness and now the suffering from the thinking is a whole different thing. The suffering is the thinking around, why would someone do such a thing to me or my cat? This is terrible. The judgment, right? The judgment of someone else, and why would they do something like that to me? Feeling probably attacked, and that created your suffering, that elongated the feeling of sadness too, because probably now you're not even sad right now. You're angry, you're frustrated, you're I would say probably a lot of anger towards this person. So now it's like emotional poisoning. You stuck in this judgment of whoever did that to you, and you go in this loop of why and how dare they, and poor me, and you get stuck there.
Exactly.
Right.
And what happened, another way that I could describe this experience is that I surrendered to what is. I stopped trying to control this and trying to maybe fix this situation so it doesn't happen again. I kind of surrendered. And there is a huge difference from acting from a place of detachment or than acting from a place of anger. Because anger, you could do something that you will regret. Anger, I'm acting from my ego if I act from my anger. But when we surrender and get back to who we truly are, we know what to do about it. We'll go about it in a way that even if I met this person and I don't know who did this, I will know how to deal with that. And maybe the way I talk to this person will change them, and they will reconsider what they're doing. But if I talk with them from anger, it will not change anything. It will not fix anything, really. And this is what we see in the world. I mean, it's not about just me, my experience, but what we see in the world. And we cannot get off ego. We gotta learn how to, be friend with it.
Be friends with the ego.
Be friend with it in a way that you drop off your ego quicker.
If you're friends with the ego.
Yeah. Like understanding how your ego works. That's a better way to say it, because ego needs boosting. You always need to do something, to feel proud of yourself and to boost it. But what I'm saying here is that, that boost and that motivation and that thing that the ego is striving for is something that we have. It's our birthright. It's something within us already.
You're saying that we don't need to boost anything. It's already boosted. We're already good enough, basically, what you're saying. Because we do all these things out of ego to prove something or to compensate.
Yeah.
Right? To look good. But we would only want to compensate if we, by definition, compensating means you're less, or you're not enough, or you're not good enough. So I got to put on an armor and do something above and beyond to prove to everybody that I'm good enough, or to not expose what I believe about myself, that I'm not good enough. And what we're saying here is, if you just get rid of the thought or the belief, the subconscious belief that you're not good enough, and come back to yourself as you are enough, then there's nothing to boost.
Yeah, and there is really no practice needed to get to that place. It's really like, it doesn't require any doing from our part. It's mind-blowing. I mean, like, this is what happened to me the first day in that seminar. I was like going crazy with this, and like, what do you mean do nothing? Like, just sit there and wait? But doing nothing,
But you
we're
did
actually doing a lot in another way. In like, there is a doing, but without our doing.
maybe it's a seeking, right? Because you did meet a friend, you did go into psychology, you did seek some sort of understanding, right? You did seek it, because a lot of people would hear you don't do nothing and it means you just do nothing, but you did seek, right? You ended up at a seminar, and that's how you got all this understanding. Because there's also the doing nothing is also, don't stay at your home and just don't eat, don't drink, don't read books, don't seek anything, right? So I just want to make sure there's a distinction there.
Yeah. Well, in what I'm saying is that do nothing in terms of like with your thoughts, because when you are in that state of flow and creativity, it's also that state of joy and pure presence. We do effortlessly. We find solutions to what seems like a dilemma half an hour ago. We are more creative. We are more loving and kind. And we connect deeper with people when we come from that space. So what I'm saying here is that, when I have a thought that is like a problem, that seems like a problem to me, if I engage with that problem and start finding solution, I'm just using my intellect here. I'm using the little me to find a solution for, something that seems like a problem to me. And here is the thing with the intellect. It's a vicious circle. And it's like using a phone without Wi-Fi. You get access to what you have on your phone, all the apps, and you could play a game, but that's it. But if you want to get something beyond that, you got to use the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi here is just a metaphor to point that there is something much deeper within every human being that they could get access to, and they are up for grab when we don't engage with this problem. I know it sounds crazy.
I get what you're saying. My question was gonna be like, how do you get Wi-Fi, right? I love the analogy. It's a phone and using the apps offline.
Yeah.
But if you get the Wi-Fi, it's even better, right?
Yeah.
Which begs the question: how do you find the Wi-Fi? Where are the antennas that give you Wi-Fi?
The Wi-Fi here is really detaching ourselves from our thinking, because when we are attached to our thinking, we are attached to what is temporary. Anything in the form, and our thinking already took form when we have it and feel it. But anything that has a form, it has an expiry date, and it's finite. But when we detach ourselves from that sort of thinking that bother us, we come back to the infinite. Naturally, without doing anything about it, we come back to what is always there and infinite and the ultimate truth, basically. And you get in touch with what is already there, taking care of you every step of the way. And it's like, I hear I see this quote a lot, like when you jump off a cliff and there is a hand of God that, takes care of the landing or takes care of you. And it's kind of like faith, It's really having faith that you're gonna be fine, or it's like you're playing in this life with the casino's money. You have nothing to lose. But we human beings, we go crazy and try to think that it's not the casino's money, this is my own money, and there is something to lose here. There is nothing to lose here. We are literally here to really see this fact for ourselves and find who we truly are. And we are not what we think we are. We are much beyond that. And when we get that, we could, at any point, start from scratch and create something better. There is no fixated, self-identity that I could go on with. I could always create something else.
So what do you create out of your life from that? So I'm hearing a lot of surrender, right? Surrender to the Wi-Fi or something that knows better than you outside of the intellect, because the intellect is limited in terms of what it knows, or just repeating information or using past solutions, maybe for new problems. Okay, so once you're connected to that Wi-Fi, so then you create from that place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Just for everybody who's watching who doesn't know anything, people probably don't know anything about Sid Banks or the 3 principles. It's still not big out there.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people who are familiar with the 3 principles, or those who are understand it, and some who know about it use more intellect to explain it or share it, which is interesting, because I find that happens within religions as well, right? Because the spiritual realm is it's all very similar, right? Like surrender to a bigger power, to the wisdom that's inside of you, to God. It's different words that we use it to point to the same thing at the end of the day. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
So just, for people who don't know anything about the 3 principles, how do you define the 3 principles?
The 3 principles are the building blocks of our experience. And I used to love sharing more about, the 3 principles are mind, thought, and consciousness, and giving the definitions of that and going on that. But I stopped doing that because people really start having a solid definition in their head about that, and that's not the point. Paul McKenna said it beautifully in a quote. He summarized this. He said that the point is to wake up, not to get a PhD in waking up. So I'd rather talk about, how we, how the human experience, how we have this human experience and how our human experience function. I will go on around that. And I will go less about the 3 principles because, as I said, I just need to be aware of them. It's just a way to point that there is something, they are spiritual, by the way. So every word I say to describe the 3 principles are not the 3 principles. They are not contained in the definition or what I say about them. It's beyond what I say. And the point is always to really create that space where you get fully present, nothing in your mind, with that person, and saying something or asking something, and they will hear it and it will click without even sharing about this understanding. And I might get and try to explain, but it's not really helpful. And since I've seen this, I stopped really talking about what
defining them.
Mind is, thought is, consciousness is. I could define them for the people who doesn't know about this understanding. Well, this is like a capital T thought. The first principle is thought, and thought is as Sid Banks defined it, it's like the paintbrush of your own experience. You paint whatever experience with thought, and it's neutral, and it's spiritual. It's not the little thought that already took form. It's a neutral space. And in a way, I'll share this quote by Rumi that might get people who doesn't know about this this understanding yet. Rumi once said that beyond wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. It's a neutral field. And that's how I see, thought. Consciousness is what brings that thought to life, to have an experience of that thought. And then you have a feeling, right? So without consciousness, there will be no experience of life as well. And so how I see consciousness is like when you want to drink tea and you just put the tea bag. You need to pour water to have, the experience of tea. Without the water, you will not have an experience of tea. So the tea bag is like the thought here, and the water is like consciousness, what brings the tea to life, so you could have an experience of it. And mind is the source of all things. It's like when you plug in your laptop to have electricity, it's what's behind everything in life. It's what makes us our heartbeat. It's what makes our immune system work so perfectly that we don't need to intervene, and try to tackle that virus or that thing that is, going to, make us sick.
What I'm hearing, Omar, is it's about creating the space so that the person can hear something new for themselves, right? Yeah. And to create the space, you slow things down, right? That's why Keith talks very slowly. Not Steve Hardison, Steve Chandler also talks very slow, right? And then there's the other type of people who talk super fast, like Tony Robbins talks super fast. The ones who are all about motivation and you gotta do this, and you gotta do that, and they give you strategies. There's a lot of encouragement. It's a different type of coaching or waking you up. Is there a middle ground between the two? Or does one inform the other one? So if you go to like a Tony Robbins kind of seminar, right? I did training with Tony Robbins, so it's very much in your face kind of coaching. Wakes you up, get up, do stuff with your life. What are you doing? Get out of this place. It's more, I don't want to use the word forceful, but it's more shocking, right? It has the shocking element. It shocks your nervous system. It shocks you. There's a lot of yelling as well. I don't want to say shaming, but there's a lot of force maybe. And that works with some people. And then there is the understanding of the three principles, who's very slow, very like, you're going to see something that we can't explain with words. Slow things down. There's nothing for you to do with your thinking. Let it come to you. Let it pass. I don't think there's right or wrong here. I think they're just different. Or maybe they work together in some way. There's also Steve Hardison, right? Who's also amazing and awesome. I've learned a lot of things from him. Comes a lot from the world of Landmark, which is, looking at what's not working in your life and what is the kind of thinking that's stopping you from doing what you want to do or being who you want to be. And then once you see those beliefs, then let them go. You can be with them, let them go, and then create something new from that space. Are we all saying the same thing? Do they work together? Are they different? What do you think about that?
I'm not that familiar with with Landmark, but I know certain stuff that that kind of points to that space within us. So I'm saying here, I don't want to say like, oh, who's right, who's wrong here. What I want to share is that using the Zen metaphor, eat the fish whole and spit the bones. Like if you're listening to something and take take what you need to take and reject the rest. Um, anything that points you to that space within you, just keep listening to it. Anything that points you at something outside of you or something outside of you, including your body, that you should fix to feel good, don't go down that road.
Yeah, if it's creating more thinking within you, it's getting you more confused and it's creating more thinking, then you're creating more noise. The point is to actually reduce the noise.
The point here is really to not really engage with the misunderstanding, and I'll give you an example of that. There was a misunderstanding a long time ago about, when people used to believe that planet Earth is flat, and I know some people are still thinking that, but let's say that it's spherical right now, okay? And if it's flat, just show me the edges, and I'll believe you. But back then, a long time ago, back then the sailors used to avoid north because they thought that the edge of Earth is there. So they used to be scared to death because north is the edge and they're gonna fall and die. But when different scientists, Copernicus, came and showed people that it's spherical, sailors stopped being afraid from something that wasn't even true. They were creating suffering for themselves. And that's what we do most of the time. We create our own suffering. And so when we understand how something works, it's easy to take it into account in everything we do in our lives. But when we don't understand how something works, it's easy to not take it into account in everything we do in our lives. It's easy to fall into old patterns and keep suffering and, and create another bubbles to engage with to suffer that too, right? Mm. And so anything that will point me back to, how it actually works. We have a human experience, and who we truly are is not, our, ego identity. It's much beyond that. Anything that points me to that and my true self, I'm in. But anything else, it just doesn't make sense. And I will hear it. I'll listen to it. And I might even take something insightful in that. But anything else that, talks about, trying to find my happiness and my well-being in the outside, I don't go down that road nowadays.
Right. Not to make having things or doing things outside of us a bad thing, but not to go. What I learned from myself is if I'm going after something to compensate, right? Or if I'm going after something to get it so that I can look good, so I can boost my ego, I'm doing it from a place of I'm lacking something.
Exactly.
But if I know I'm enough and I'm good enough and I'm slowed down and I'm really in tune with myself and feeling content and enough, really, then whatever it is I want to have outside of me, one, it becomes easier to get, and two, I enjoy it a lot more because I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it to prove anything.
Absolutely. You're coming from a place of abundance.
Right.
And when you surrender to what is, you are in tune with abundance. The source of life. You kind of get wisdom from that. And sometimes it happens to me a lot when I'm talking to a client or when I'm doing a podcast or the show. I just say something that I'm not even aware that I'm going to share. And like today, I shared many things, but sometimes I say something that I'm, surprised about, or someone comes up to me, is like, I love when you said this and that. And I was like, did I say this really? And then I listened to it back, and like, oh, okay. But that's it's not because I'm like smarter or more confident or anything like that. It's just that I'm in tune with who I truly am, and I'm sharing. It's like it's coming through you. It's not about you.
Yeah. What is the role of the intellect then?
The intellect is it's good to have the intellect, but it's not something that you should rely on. To memorize things, to to learn new things. You should really focus on the source of the intellect. It's like when you have for example, a headache or something, you take a pill for it, and you're not tackling the source of the headache. You're just making it stop for a while. But if you want to look deeper, you should look for the source of the headache, which might be you're thinking too much, or you've been having this chatter in your mind. You've been that's been bothering you, and you cannot sleep at night, maybe, and that's why you have headache.
So when we're talking about the intellect, so you defining the intellect, I always looked at it as a way to solve like a math problem, right? For me, that's the intellect. Do you agree with that?
In maths, you could have an insight as well about like when you finally see how this equation, you could solve this equation, and you're like, that's like a new thought that you never thought of it before. Like, and you get it. And so like as I said, the intellect is here to guide us. It's not to guide us, but it's to have this human experience in this life. You need the intellect, right? But you cannot rely on the intellect every time. You have to always come back, because the intellect is like the form. And what I'm talking about is the formless. And it's the formless and the form that's, like it's kind of, when you come back to who you truly are, you see the oneness of it. You see like that, that thing that I see, the outside, is coming from nothing. So from nothing, something comes out, unfolds. It's not backward.
Right.
It's not something from the outside that creates what's in the inside, or
right. The energy creates something tangible, right?
Yeah.
Where there's always an energy or frequency or vibration or things that we don't see with the naked eye create everything that has a form.
And I would say like the way we talk about it in the Three Principles community, or what Sydney Banks shared in his book, The Missing Link. He said that like the little mind and the divine mind are like intertwined, like they're one. Without the divine mind, you wouldn't have the little mind. It's one. There is no separation between them. And when you see this for yourself, you will not really engage with the illusory nature of thoughts that gives you like or makes you believe that something outside of you made you feel this way, or something outside of you gave you that feeling of joy. You always come back to source. It's really keeping us from suffering needlessly in this life. I mean, it's protecting me big time. Like I mean, if it wasn't for this understanding, I would have suffered many things for a longer time. So it's not that you're like not suffering. You're suffering, but that suffering, once you see for what it is, that it's kind of like a reminder. It's kind of like a. It just tells you that you're sidetracked in your thinking. It's like a love letter from God. That it's like a wake up call. Hey, listen, Omar, you're sidetracking in your thinking, but don't worry about it. We're taking care of that. It's like an immune system for the mind.
It's for me, it's what we call faith, right? Or trust.
Yeah.
Someone's got your back, or someone's taking care of it for you.
Yeah.
You still gotta seek, because you had to seek to even get to where you got today. But don't do anything with your thinking, like you said earlier, right?
Yeah. I mean, that seeking led me to stop seeking.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's kind of like I got to a point where I stopped the chase. There is nothing to chase.
Mm.
You know what you've been looking for, you've been looking with. You thought that you need to go and study meditation and go to the India, for example, to Himalaya, but you've been always taking that with you there. And where you could, like, if you see insightfully that you are the source of that, you have it within you wherever you go. It's like it's not like you need a vacation to feel better, you need this or you need that, because going to the beach, you're gonna feel better, but then you're gonna go back home and you're like, okay, I need another holiday. That was amazing, but I need another one. And it's like it's never ending. So when you see that you could be happy wherever you are, and you have that within you, and you are with yourself wherever you go, and you take that with you, it's something that always within us, and wherever we go, we take it with us. And so, like, the seeking stops when we see that insightfully, when we have a sight within, not within our body, but to see this on to have this spiritual experience, or enlightening experience, or whatever you want to call it, but seeing something much deeper than what you see with your naked eye.
How about our needs? How does that play a role in our needs? So, like, we have, the need for love, the need for adventure, the need, or at least we came up with those needs, or they're real needs. I don't know anymore. But, sometimes you're like, oh, what do I need right now? Oh, maybe I need a little bit of food. Maybe I need a hug. Maybe I need time alone. Maybe I need to express myself better. Maybe I need to be more authentic. Maybe, how does that play a role in what you're saying?
So, like, literally, if you need anything, you will hear it deeper, and you will listen to that. If you are hungry, you go and eat. If you're sleepy, you go and sleep. But what I'm saying is that, like, when you're in tune with who you truly are, it's not much of a need, but it's something that you do for the sake of it. But you're okay. Like, you know your okayness. It's not coming from a place of lacking. It's not like I need love. You are love. You are the ultimate love. You're divine love. That love you feel, that seems like it's coming from the outside. It's emerging through you all the time. So that love you feel is always coming from you.
Yes. So those are spiritual things. And then there are the human needs as well, though. So, like, we need community, for example, as humans, right? We're not designed to be living isolated or mountains alone. So
absolutely. And like, being in tune with who you truly are, it's natural to create that. It's natural to have community. It's natural to, and go for, your true desires and your higher self goals, I would say, that are in tune with who you truly are. It's normal to go and do what you need to do. There is no noise in the background. There is no lack in the background to kind of, want to do something, to feel something. That's what I'm saying. Like, when you're in tune with yourself, that comes naturally. That is love. You find, you meet someone that you get along with. You just communicate from that place.
It's natural. Things are flowing.
Right. Exactly. So you are flowing with life.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that are projected, or kind of like we're programmed to believe that I need this. For example, I'll give you an example. I need to, to buy a car and a house and find a beautiful partner. These are kind of beliefs that we start, like believing, you know, because of the society we live in, because of maybe our parents, or because of our, friends, our social circle. These are influences. And most of the time, these beliefs become something that we set with ourselves, setting a rule. If I don't get that and this is not done the way I want, I will feel bad. I'll be angry.
It's supposed to be a certain way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so when you're just flowing with life, everything is supporting that for you naturally.
Yeah, I love that. I love how the way you phrase that. What triggers you?
Having triggering thoughts.
Having triggering thoughts triggers you.
Yeah, because whatever you think, you feel. If you have triggering thoughts, you're going to be triggered. If you have angry thoughts, you're going to feel angry. So that's the thing. Whatever it's in your thinking, you feel. It's thoughts, feeling.
But we don't all get triggered by the same thing, right? Like you might get triggered from a sensory place. If it's too hot, you might not be feeling, like I might not care, not get triggered, but the heat might bother you more than me. And you might feel uncomfortable, feel frustrated or irritated. Someone might say something like, I don't like what you're wearing. I might get triggered by someone saying something like that to me. And you might not get triggered by someone saying something like that to you. So obviously we all have different things that trigger us. We're all unique in that sense. So what is it for you?
Well,
Or what is you thinking about? Why do we all each get triggered by different things?
okay. So, well, here's the thing. Like, we all have our own, made up experience and beliefs and rules with ourselves. So I'm saying that, like sometimes I might get triggered by something. For example, it's when it's hot. And earlier while we were having this conversation, I felt hot, and then I was like, I had thoughts coming up, and I was like, oh my god, maybe I will stop breathing or something. But then I ignored that. It's and sometimes I will let go of it, and sometimes I will get caught up in my triggering thoughts, and I will engage with that more. But to tell you that that there is something specific that triggers me, I don't anymore. I used to have a lot. Like I'll be triggered if someone start teasing me in a way that I don't like, for example. And but now I don't mind. I used to be triggered by the weather. I lived in London for 6 years, but now I don't mind it. In actual fact, I love, I appreciate every weather. Just because I really, I really saw something that's every human being could see as well. So I'm not an exception here. That's, the weather could not make me feel anything. Because sometimes, if I like sunny weather, sometimes it's sunny, but I'm not feeling good. Sometimes it's cloudy and I'm feeling good. Sometimes it's cloudy, I'm feeling bad. And sometimes, it's sunny and I'm feeling good, as it's supposed to be in my head. But these are all rules that we create for ourselves. So when we really shake the foundations of that belief or that thoughts, we really see that it has there is nothing solid in it. Like it changes. So if I put that thought that is bothering me or that triggering thought in here, it's not going to take any space. It doesn't have form. It's made up of what dreams are made of. And the more we see that, and the more we see like how our experience is created, the less we engage with that, the less I'm going to worry about north, that there is the edge, I'm going to fall. Like, it doesn't even make sense to me right now. So what's happened to me is that it doesn't make sense to me to take offense about so many things. But when my level of consciousness is low, or I'm not feeling good, it might be hard to see this fact.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you said in terms of offense. If I'm not offended, then there's nothing to defend, right? But the whole offense thing means I'm being attacked to begin with, and if I'm being attacked, my nervous system is going into a fight or flee, and I have to do something about it, and I have to defend myself, and I have to find a strategy to win, and you lose, right? It's like me versus you all of a sudden, and we lose that oneness or that place of where we can all win. But the less I feel offended, the less I feel attacked, the more at peace I'm at, the less I have to do anything, and the more I can create from that place better things. Because if I'm too busy defending, right? And if it's like a war zone, right? If I'm in a war zone and I think I'm getting offended, I'm being attacked, and I have to defend, and I can't build anything, right? You can't build something when bombs are falling on your head. You're just trying to keep safe and survive. And but if you move into that peaceful place, that's where then you can build stuff. I see that a lot, like when I'm coaching entrepreneurs and in the business world, and people get stuck. Usually they get stuck, or things are not working out or flowing, because they are in that place of being offended. And like you were saying earlier, they're so engaged with their thinking and with creating a strategy for how to win, or how to look good, or how to give their ego that boost, that it's hard for them to build their business from that place. It's a stuck place.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually a saying that I love. I don't know by whom, but it's just something that I couldn't, forget, and I always remember it. If you don't take offense, you wouldn't get offended. You need to take offense to get offended. So you have to take it in, so it could, rev you up, and be in that stage of, being offended. But if you don't take it in, you wouldn't get offended in the first place. And I think it's beautifully put. And also, when we don't engage with these kind of thoughts, we fall out of our thinking to the source of all things. And as you said, you get creative, and you find problems for. You find solutions for what seems like a problem to you, and it's a game changer. It's really a game changer.
Yeah. Omar, how can people find you?
Well, they can either come and visit me in Casablanca. I'm in Casablanca at the moment. You're all welcome, by the way. And well, yeah, I'm on Facebook. My Facebook is Omar, Omar Ben Moussa, BN space MOUSSA. My website is omarbenmoussa.com. I have my business page, Tawhid Mentoring Academy, Tawhid TAWHID Mentoring Academy, and also on Instagram, Tawhid Mentoring Academy.
That's amazing. Do you have any retreats or any programs that's coming up that you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually working on actually talking about a retreat that I'm going to do with Dr. Joe Bailey. He's been sharing this understanding for quite a while, and he's been a student of Sydney Banks, and he's written 6 books, sold 500,000 copies, translated to 20 each languages, and he's an amazing human being above all of this. He's going to be in Spain around November, and so we are planning to do retreats. So we're thinking of a program that will be culminating into a retreat here in Morocco. So we're still, preparing for this. Apart from that, I do my all-time favorite program, Getting Out of Your Own Way program, either one-on-one or group coaching. And yeah, I do one-off sessions as well. But my audience is anyone who thinks that there is an exception to to their experience, that they are not feeling their thinking in the moment. That's my audience. If you think that something is triggering you to feel in a certain way, let's have a chat and talk. I mean, I've worked with lawyers, doctors, nurses. I've worked with people with chronic pain. People who have something that it seems to them it's a mental illness. And I also worked with people who are stuck in their lives and they cannot move forward. My job or my mission, I would say, is to alleviate suffering and take every human being on earth through the inside out understanding, transformation, and so they could see who they truly are and have a joyful life. That they are really excited about every day, and have this, as Sydney Banks used to say when he drinks coffee, this is my best cup of coffee I've ever had. Every time he has a sip of coffee or tea, this is what he would say, and he means it. And so that's what I want for people as well, and alleviating suffering and increasing the consciousness of this planet, so we could have less war and more connectedness and unity, and less racism, and be good to Earth, and be good to our environment.
Omar, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate you. I learned so much from you, and I'm so excited we got to talk. So thank you.
You're welcome, Sarah, and it's my pleasure to be here and to share this space with you. And I'm really glad that you're doing this show, and I wish you best of luck in whatever you're doing. And I know you're an amazing coach and an amazing human being. So it's always good to see you and good to do this with you.
Thank you, Omar.